Hi, my name's Ben, hashtag Humble Ben.
And my name's John, hashtag Affable John.
We're the co-hosts of The Greatest Thing You've Never Heard,
A book club for your next favorite record.
and you are listening to the My Stuttering Life podcast, hosted by Pedro Pena.
So let's get started.
What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. This is episode number 90, and my special guest is Daniel Francis. Daniel Francis is a communication and public speaking coach for people who stutter. Daniel helps people who stutter overcoming their stuttering blocks and anxiety by learning the fundamentals of public speaking. Daniel struggled with his communication his entire life, and he is dedicated to help others unlock their communication potential. Daniel has publicly spoken on stage in front of thousands, ran hundreds of public speaking events, has sold 3,000 sales door to door, knocked on 100,000 residential doors, and was a sales director of a $4 million business by the day of 25 years old. He also lives in Grimsby, Ontario, with his amazing girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, one day, and is on a mission to truly impact the communication and speech industry in a positive way. I am honored to have him as a guest with me on the My Stuttering Life podcast. Welcome, Daniel Francis.
Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, sir. This is a great honor. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Do you remember when you first began to stutter?
Yes. I remember, from what I understand, my parents told me, but from what I understand, I was about, I want to say about 3 years old. And my mom asked me who's coming to my birthday party. And I would try to say all my cousins' names. And I would go like, Ale, Sabrina, Kelsey, and then I would just get so upset. I would just stop saying their names, and then I would go, me friends, and then I would literally walk out the room. That's what my mom described to me when I was a kid.
Oh my gosh. Does it run in your family? Are there any other family members who stutter?
Yeah, from what I understand, my grandfather, my nonno, stuttered. He didn't have a bad one, but he stuttered. And then it runs on my mom's side, so my mom's brothers have it. It's not like severe where it's extremely terrible. Not terrible, but where they're not able to communicate at all. Right? I like to label it as functional stutterers. Like, I don't know if that's the right word to use. That they're not crippled, where they're not able to get jobs. Like, they function, right? They have families, they have full-time jobs, they have children, they live a day-to-day life, right? But and when talking about my family, it's genetic for sure.
Do they still have their stutter? Do you know if they still have it, or somehow did they outgrow it?
Yeah, it's so funny with my family. We just don't talk about it. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, we don't like, and I think that was one of the biggest worries when I, finally came out with, what I do for a living, which is, I basically took my biggest fear that I never really talked about, and I never really wanted anyone to know about, that I stuttered, and I turned it into a platform to help other people. So my whole method is I teach people how to public speak. And that, in that system, you're able to build a more confident version of yourself. And the reason why I say that is because in my family, we just never talked about it. So we never actually discussed about it. But for example, when I'm with them, of course, like, well, like, because when you're someone who stutters, it's like you almost have this spidey sense that someone else who stutters is in the room. We just never talked about it. So when you say outgrow it, do they both? It's funny. It's that term is hard to explain, or that term is hard to really look at.
Exactly.
Right? Do they have both great lives? 100%. And do they both work jobs? Do they both travel? Do they both, are they accomplishing what they wanted to? Like, for example, I have one uncle who, runs and owns and operates, like, I want to say, from what I understand, he does over $1 million a year in his construction business or his electrician business. So, does he stutter every once in a while when he's talking to a client or when he's telling a story at family dinner or on Sundays as Italians? Sure, but we don't really notice it. It's not something that we talk about. But to say he's fully 100% fluent, no, because I don't think anyone is. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Now, I'm a little, curious. Do you think culture plays in that? Because my family, we are Hispanic, and so that was never talked about at home, like what you were talking about. Do you think that culture plays a part in that?
Culture plays a part. I think. When I look at my Italian side of my family, I could see a lot of, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but there was, let's just say, more anxiety and more stress, maybe in relation to other families. And maybe it was because we were hard on ourselves, or on my mom's side, right? So my mom's Italian and my dad's Maltese. So my dad's side doesn't really stutter, more on my mom's side, right? So when I look at my mom's side, they're very hard workers. They're very disciplined. We're Italians where we just, we work our job, we get there on time. So there was just, I want to say there's more anxiety. And in my eyes, I think it's when you don't talk about it and you kind of suppress it and not really confront it. I think that's where the problem gets worse and worse. So I don't know with your Hispanic family, but I find any situation, like, for example, if you're at a job and there's a problem and no one's talking about it, like, that problem is just going to get worse and worse and worse over time because you're never actually confronting it. So if someone who stutters and you're listening, like, the best way to really overcome it, and I know that word overcome is, it's like, that's not true. You can never overcome it. Sure. Let's just take the word handle, right? Improve. If you want to improve it, the best way to do it is to confront it. And when I say confront, I mean to look at it, to talk about it, to actually not keep it at the back of your head and try to, like, do everything else and, live a life where no one is really talking about this challenge that you're facing. It's like mental health. It's like, how do you handle something? Confront it. How do you lose weight? You confront it. If you want to lose weight, okay, great. Let's look at your diet. Like, for example, I just hired someone to hold me accountable for everything I do in my life, whether it's the time I start work, whether it's the food I put in my body. So I actually have a group chat where every meal that I take a picture of it and then I send it into this group. Like, I'm talking about, Pedro, I'm talking about every single meal. And at the beginning, I thought I was a pretty, good eater.
Wow, that's a lot.
So I thought I was a pretty good eater, but then I started sending him pictures, and then I'm realizing, I'm like, I cheat a lot, and I'm like, maybe this is the reason why I'm not losing weight. But it's just
welcome
like
to my
your
world.
stutter.
Yeah,
but it's just like your stutter. It's like, you want to handle it, confront it, talk about it, get yourself on camera. So I think, I know the word you said was culture, but I think it's the level of confronting is the real truth to really become the best version of you. So I think because I didn't confront it, in my younger days, and it was just how I grew up, it's just, get to work, Don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. Enough. Basta, It's how Italians would say, right? It's you just don't talk about it. So what
Right.
happens is, and I think like when I look at who I was and when I was very depressed, it was because I was trying to hide this version of me. And, I'm 27 right now and I'm the happiest I've ever been. I have an amazing partner. I've been successful in my career. I look at who I am right now and I'm very happy about it. But I went through many years where I had to confront the very scary things in my life, like confronting my past. I've done therapies, I've done things, I've done very uncomfortable things to make me who I am right now. But if I say I go back in time and I never did the hard things that I did, maybe I would have been in a much worse place. I know I would have been in a much worse place. So I don't think it's culture. I think it's more or less like the community you're around. Is there a community that is focused on growth and confronting and bettering? Or is it, a community of, this is who we are. We can't get better. I don't take responsibility. I blame everyone but myself. I hope you kind of understand where I'm going with this.
Yes, I do. Because, when I was growing up, we just never talked about it. And so my mom stuttered. However, at the age of 14, she just had told herself, I'm all done. And it was gone. And I mean, the power of the mind, girl power. I don't know exactly how she did it, but we never talked about it. And so, like you were talking about, I just kept it hidden. And for 35 years, I just, kept it in, kept fighting it. I never confronted it until I turned 40, but that's a whole other story. So, okay, let's go back a little bit. So in school, had you had speech therapy? And if you did, was it helpful?
Yeah. I probably went to maybe 4 or 5 different speech therapists. My mom didn't know what to do. My mom brought me when I was probably 3, 6, 8 or 9. I believe I went again when I was 15. I just remember this now, actually. I even went to a psychologist in my university, I believe when I was 19. So I just didn't know what to do. And I tried all these different things. I never like talking bad about really anyone. So I think the speech industry, the speech therapy industry, I think they're really good people with really, really good intentions, like amazing. I think they are people that are trying to make this planet a better place in the communication realm. Majority of them, right? Obviously there's bad eggs and bad apples with everywhere you go in any industry. But it didn't work. And, for some reason I got a lot of, I don't really see a problem with you. I think you're fine. And this is what I hear from a lot of people too. It's like, yeah, Daniel, when I'm talking to you right now, I'm totally fine. But you put me in a situation where I have, 4 or 5 friends around me, or I'm public speaking, or I'm in class, or I'm in a work meeting. That's where it kicks in. And I don't know what to do. And majority of my clientele that work with me, that is the focus. So, I think speech therapy is great with the techniques and, whether it's breathing techniques, whether it's enunciating, whether it's tapping techniques, I think they're really good, but I don't think they're handling the root of the problem, which is, it's like when the pattern kicks in, if you understand what I mean, right?
Yes.
Meaning like, I get in front of a group of people and then all of a sudden anxiety kicks in and I blank. And it's just like a different person comes out of me and I don't know what to do. Like I have 2 individuals who are in their 50s. Actually, one is in their 50s, one's in their 60s, I believe. And, the biggest challenge that I see is it's really in a work meeting, talking to someone senior, asking for something, asking for a report. putting in your 2 cents. And to tie it back to speech therapy, I don't think, from what I've seen and from personal experience and from the hundreds of individuals that I've actually helped and worked with, what I've noticed is it doesn't help that problem. And they may, the common thing I see, Pedro, is they'll improve for a week and then they're back to ground zero. They'll improve for a week and then they're back to ground zero. And then they don't actually feel like they've gotten better. So that's my 2 cents. But I think they're amazing people in the industry.
They are. And, back in my day, because, I'm a lot older than you are, Daniel. I'm twice your age. During my years of speech therapy and like what you were talking about, I mean, they had the best of intentions. However, what I got out of it is that I am broken, and here's how I can fix you. Give me all, of these tools. They would record my voice on this long card that had a magnetic strip, and then to hear myself, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's just horrible. And later in my therapies, I learned the mental health aspect of it, which I really and truly wish that had happened at the start of my speech therapy, because they don't guide you or help you on how to handle certain situations. They don't go over self-care, which is huge. And so I do appreciate all of my speech therapists during my 2 decades. And but, later in life, when I was in the military, I worked with a great hypnotherapist. And so, he was teaching me the mental aspect, of having a stutter, and I greatly appreciated all that he helped me with. So yeah, I agree with you.
That's awesome.
School wise, okay, so school's hard for everybody. Peer pressure, But if you have a stutter, that's a whole different ball of wax. How did you handle school with having a stutter?
Yeah, I mean, I went into neuroscience. So I was, I don't know if I was telling you this before, but I was writing during COVID when I was like in a transition of like, do I want to keep pursuing my career as a director and continue being this individual? And when the lockdown first began, and I obviously couldn't work because I wasn't essential, I started writing a book on my life, and I was looking at my whole life, and every decision I made was to truly beat my stutter, overcome it. So I went through 2 phases, within university, like 2 main phases. So one was music. I learned that when I sing, I don't stutter. And even when I'm on stage, I don't stutter. I'm like, I can just take these words and I could, with all the nerves and anxiety and whatever, I could sing and not stutter. It's crazy. But I realized I couldn't sing in conversations because that would just be weird. So
me too.
So then I moved on to my next phase, which was then what I call the academic phase in my life, where I don't know, I was really hurting, and you may laugh at this, and it's a long time, but one of my really good friends at the time started dating my sister, and it just like, it just set me off to a whole new realm in anger. I don't know if you have a sister. But when
no,
you
I
have,
don't.
Yeah, but when you like it's fine. It's like, haha, that's like it's no big deal. But when I was really insecure, I didn't like myself. I had this stutter. I couldn't even find myself a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And the first friend that I made in high school, like I'm talking about like best friends. We'd hang out after school every single day. He was like, like he accepted me for me, even though I was stuttering. A year and a half later, he's dating my sister. So that's just set me off. To a whole new realm.
Oh,
And
wow.
we're talking about almost 10 years ago, right? And, it really hurt me. And I went into this phase of screw everyone. I'm going to, I don't know. I'm going to do something crazy. Like enough's enough. Like almost like what your mom said, right? And so what I did was grade 12, which is the last year of high school. I said, I'm not going to go to university next year. I'm going to take an extra year and change all my courses to what I call the Asian six pack. If you ever heard of the Asian six pack, it's
I have not, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's pretty much chemistry, biology, physics, advanced functions, calculus, and data management.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I'm going to become a doctor. So I took all this anger and all this rage. I'm going to become a doctor. So because I thought, I'm going to get accepted in life. B, if I become really smart and very intelligent, I'm going to overcome my stutter. And, so I took an extra year of high school, a victory lap. And then I got accepted into a neuroscience program the year after. And, I thought I did exactly what I should be doing, which is, go through this academic route, be the smartest kid in school, get really high grades. I'm studying for my MCATs in the summertime. I'm doing all these things thinking that I would overcome my stutter and, just love myself. But and everyone who's listening, you can even learn off this, because I realized, again, we're looking at 7 years ago. What I realized, or 8 years ago, what I realized is I cut off my social life. So I didn't have any friends, and I said, hey, I'm spending $18,000 for 1 year at 19 years old to live on campus and to buy everything. I don't need any friends. You stay far away from me, dude. And I got to pay 3 more years to even graduate, and that I won't even get a job after that. So I don't think education is the bad thing. I think it's not having. I think kids are going into school with no vision, and that's what happened to me. So I'm in school and I'm stressing, Pedro, like assignments. I have labs. I have to make sure I'm studying. I have cue cards that I'm memorizing all the time, and I'm just stressing myself out. And by February, when I started school in September, by February, I'm just a mess. I'm taking Adderall at the time because one kid on my floor, it's my first time living on my own. I heard if you take Adderall, you can study longer. So I'm at the library for 10, 12 hours a day. I would have breakfast, no social life. And at the beginning, it's fine, but then it adds up where I'm taking 2 Adderalls and, I think even 3 out at one time. Hopefully my mom isn't listening to this.
Wow.
And then,
that's a lot of Adderall.
Yeah. And then, and then it's, I get back to my dorm, lonely, and it's 11 o'clock at night. I got up at 8. I'm back home by 11. I watch some Netflix or do whatever I got to do. I'm still thinking about, I'm planning my next day, and, it's like 2 a.m. and I can't fall asleep, and I'm calling my mom just bawling and saying the scariest things, your son should be saying to their mom at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if you know, Pedro, but the average, we literally had on campus, we had what's called a suicide week. They labeled it suicide week.
Oh, wow.
Because it's the most common week, kids on campus commit suicide because they get so overwhelmed. So they actually labeled it suicide week, and no classes, everyone gets a week off. And I remember it's year 1, and I think we're 3 months in, 2-3 kids killed themselves. I'm talking about 17-year-old effing kids.
Oh my gosh.
18-year-old kids.
Oh my gosh.
And that was just at my university. Hello, look at all the universities, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so the reason why I'm talking about this is I know for myself, I hit an ultra low. And I wouldn't even say it's because of the stutter. I mean, the stutter is because I'm not confronting it, so I'm not communicating. But I think there's a lot more to just someone who stutters. I think the biggest thing is when people cut out their social life, that's where you go mad. When you don't have friends that you can talk to. And when I mean talk to, I don't mean these fake conversations. I mean real, like, this is how I feel. This is who I am, and you have a bouncing board. Like right now, I have many bouncing boards and many outlets, starting with, with my partner, Rachel, who I live with. Right. But then I have other friends. I have my family. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I know where to reset. But I think the problem is, and this is people in general, there's no reset button for a lot of individuals. So you take a kid who's been living with mommy and daddy, you put them on campus. And I'm just talking to people on campus, even if you're living at home, you're still feeling the burden. But I think this is the biggest challenge. When you cut out people out of your life, that's where the madness starts kicking in. And I remember I was going mad, Pedro. Like I was becoming, I was just like, this isn't worth living anymore. And it's dark. And I think that is the problem for a lot of kids. And I think it stems from, they don't have any guidance, they get piled, like the work, they just piled on, right? They're spending all this money. The profs are trying to do their thing, but like, I don't know how much you're really going to learn off so many profs, right? Like if you take a prof for what a prof is, like sure, he or she has done a lot, but they've literally just been a full-time student their whole life. And I don't want to take any jabs, right? But right. But so you need to get a plethora of different experience from different individuals, and I don't think the kids have, someone that they can, there's no path. So you're spending all this money. There's no path. You're getting overwhelmed by all this work. You hear from all these people that even when you graduate, you're going to be working at Starbucks with a lot of debt on your books. So I think all this stuff starts adding up and they go, like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And this is really where depressions start kicking in. And when you add the no social life or no guidance or no leader or no person that they can look up to, again, that's where things start to go really downhill. So that's where I hit my lows of lows. And luckily, like I found my next journey and I got out of it, but I know a lot of people don't. And that's my 2 cents, Pedro. So I think it's more than just stuttering, but I think stuttering causes someone to not socialize, and that just makes everything worse. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does, and listening to you, I did that twice in my life. In grade school. Basically, I was just all by myself. I would eat lunch in the janitor's closet because no one wanted to hang out with the kid, who couldn't talk and, who would spit and sputter and picture just, 12 years of school and you're just basically just by yourself, cut off from everybody. It's just Pedro and his dark bedroom, and that's it. All through school, and to just listen to you, I went down that dark path. I had a 38 in my hand, and so thankfully there was a person put in my path that, made me realize that, we are all here for a purpose. And in college, I did the same thing that you did. I went to school full time, year round for 6 years, obtained my bachelor's in psychology, and then my master's in industrial organizational psychology. But I spent every waking moment at that school library. I did not have any type of social life. So, I can truly, relate to what you were talking about. And, it is so important to have a sounding board. It is truly important to have another human being to talk to, because we are social beings. We need that other person to just talk to. So, yeah, you just made a great point. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are going through it.
Yes, sir. So do you have any advice for parents and teachers with regards to children who stutter?
It's a good question. I've never really got asked for teachers. So I have someone in my program who's actually who's 14, and his mom saw my ad, and she booked a call with me, and her son's in my program. And I coach her son, but I also work with her as well, because both need to be aligned with what is needed. And she doesn't stutter, but he does. So any advice? So I live by this rule. I don't know if I've kind of talked to you about this, Pedro, before, but have I ever told you about this rule called "Who do you listen to"? It's this golden rule that I live by.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I live by this golden rule, which is, and like I'm so firm on this, I sometimes even offend people.
Wow.
So it goes like this, and if you're taking notes, I would highly recommend this down.
I'm taking notes, Daniel. Have we met?
Well, no, I'm talking about all the listeners too, but yeah.
I'm here to learn too. Okay, go.
So I live by this rule, and I think this saved me a lot of time, and because it really ties into everything. It could tie into into school, right? Which it goes like this. It goes, who do you? Because this is the biggest question where a lot of people get really confused on, which is, who do you listen to in life? Right? Who do you listen to? Who do you listen to for advice? Because I don't know if you've done this, but you can get very caught up in listening to the wrong people. But because you've known them for so long, but because they're a good friend and they have good intentions, you take their advice. But then you realize, let me ask you this, you realize that advice wasn't the best thing for you, or I shouldn't have actually applied their advice. I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm
yes,
glad
sir.
we can agree on that.
Yes, sir.
So I'll tell you why. And because you follow this rule, which is you only listen to people that A, have the results you want, and B, they've been in your shoes. So I'm stubborn about this. I'm very blessed that I've had successful mentors, who've had what I want and have been in my shoes to teach me this concept, right? But I am so stubborn, Pedro, because I don't allow anyone to really come into my head unless they have what I want and they've been where I've been.
That is awesome.
So let me kind of give some more detail to it, okay?
I'm ready.
So for example, right? Let's just talk about speech, right? When it comes to speech, I'm only going to listen to someone who speaks the way that I would want to speak like. I know that offends people. I know that goes, well, Daniel, there's some really good people. I get that. But I'm going to be stubborn with this. Because if you don't sound like the way I want to speak like, and this is the problem with a lot of, do you see how where I'm going to go with this? I could offend some people, Pedro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
But this is my truth. And because it's like, like for example, right? If we take an idea like health, right? Say I want to get fit, right? Am I going to go ask the person who's overweight?
No.
Obviously not, Daniel.
No.
Yeah, but he could be a really good guy or a really good girl with a lot of great intentions, and they've taken a lot of courses. Yeah, but they don't have the results. So obviously something's flawed in their data. You know what I mean? So,
yes, sir.
So right, and the second thing is, have they been in my shoes? So I've always been a chubby Italian. So I hate to say it, but I'm not going to go ask the skinny person for advice who's been skinny their whole life. They don't have the same genetics as me. They might not have the same patterns as me. They have a higher metabolism. So why would I listen to those people? Right? Because the problem is we want to lose weight. So, I take a concept like losing weight because we all agree about that.
Exactly.
But the second I bring on other concepts, it grinds people's gears. Right? It's
it does.
Yeah, of course. But this is why I've saved so many years. Like I'm 27, but I feel like I'm 50 because I've been trained by 50-year-olds or people that are very successful. That whether it's financially, whether it's health-wise, whether it's relationship, whether it's spiritual-wise, whether it's mindset-wise, whether it's happiness-wise. It's what I've done my whole life. And this is what has really saved me because I'm cutting years. Rather, there's two ways to learn, right? From your own mistakes and from other people's mistakes. So what do you think most people live by? By learning off their own mistakes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I've paid the money to learn off other people's mistakes, so I don't repeat it, right? That's why you read books. You could go learn, like ask yourself, has someone else been in your shoes before? Well, no, there's only one Pedro. Sure, I get that, but has someone dealt with the same challenges as you? Sure. Has someone overcome it? Sure. So why? And have they written a book or have they done something about it or have they blah, 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 blah? Yeah. So why would you not go study that material?
Exactly.
Why would you go through life not learning? It blows my mind.
Right.
So I'll give you an example, right? So this is about 2017, 2018. And I'm like, enough's enough. I've been hitting the gym for quite a while. I just can't lose weight or, I just can't figure it out. Right. And, it's funny because I put on a couple of pounds now and it's obviously because I don't have the accountability in my life. Right. You always go back into your old patterns.
Exactly.
So we have a gym called Good Life in Canada. And, I go up to the Good Life and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm getting a trainer. Enough's enough. I'm paying for it. Enough's enough. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. They try to get information for free and that only takes you for so long. So, cause you don't need a trainer. You can just go watch every single YouTube video and you can read every single book, have fun. But if you really want to get results, put your money where your mouth is. I'm a strong believer of that. Because guess what? You're paying the gym every week. Guess what? You're showing up to the gym at 7 a.m. twice a week with your trainer.
Right.
Then if you got that for free. So anyway, so I go and I'm talking to the manager and he obviously sees that I'm very ambitious and I have a feeling that he wants to work with me. The only problem is he doesn't look like the way I want to look like, and there's no disrespect, but it's like he has the gut. He's chunky.
Mm-hmm.
And in his words, he's like, well, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I lift heavy weights or what is the word I'm looking for? But anyway, he is someone who lifts heavy, so he has to be bigger. And it's no disrespect. I just don't want to look like you. I don't want to do that. I want the shredded six pack. So, I'm like, and I'm talking to him and he's telling me he's going to put me on this phase, on that phase, on this phase, the burn phase, the cut phase, the keto phase. He's just selling me the whole package. I'm like, let's do it. I'm like, I got the money. I'm like, I'm disciplined. You tell me what to do. I'll make it happen. He's like, great. And I'm like, but just one thing, I'm only going to do it, if I can have a trainer who has the body that I want.
Exactly.
And his face goes red because he knows that he doesn't have it.
It's not him. Yeah.
It's not him. Right. So, his face goes red and blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, great. He's like, no worries. I'll get you the guy. And then Big Mike walks in, this big dude who just shredded like 10% body fat. And I'm like, I want that son of a gun. Where do I sign? And then, I just started working with him, right? And I was like, because in my head, if your knowledge is so good, why don't you have the results?
Right. Good point.
It's like, I understand you've read the books. I understand you've done the time and you've learned what you have to learn. I understand 7 years ago you looked this way, but you don't look like this way anymore. So obviously something's off. And if you're not disciplined, how am I going to stay disciplined?
Exactly.
Because obviously you're cheating somehow, some way. You're not just waking up in the morning and saying I'm big boned. And if that's how you think, I don't want to think like that. So this is where I grind some gears, Pedro.
I'm ready.
So I'm looking for, in a perfect world, let's look at a trainer, right? I'm looking for someone who has the body that I want because they're disciplined. And I want to be called out, right? If you're not in that shape, how are you going to call me out, Pedro? How are you going to call me out? Right? If we're both having cheesecake on Friday night and I'm supposed to lose weight, how are you going to call me out saying, dude, you shouldn't be having cheesecake? Because the trainer's doing it too.
Exactly.
So I take this concept and I start applying it to every other aspect in my life. And I know you asked me about parents and teachers, but I want you to really understand this, right? Because, if I'm not a biology teacher, I'm not going to teach you about biology. If I don't know something, I'm not going to teach it. So when a mom or a dad or a teacher, who's never stuttered or who hasn't learned about what it really takes to overcome it, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but you should not be giving advice. If you haven't gone through, so when I hear the question of like, what do you tell parents? I tell the parents, go find advice. Go find a solid teacher who has been through your son or your daughter's shoes, speaks the way that you would want your son or daughter to speak like one day, and I would find a way to get them through that program. And if you do it properly, sooner or later, because they will start taking on the same patterns, the same skills. So we take communication, right? I'm only going to go to a communicator that speaks the way I want to speak. If I want to be a solid public speaker and I go to a class and the guy who's teaching me doesn't sound like the way I want to sound like, I'm not going to work with him. I'm not going to work with her. It's no disrespect. But how are you going to teach me something when you don't have it yourself? And this applies to everything, Pedro. It applies to relationships. Like I'm in a relationship with my partner who will soon be my wife. I'm not going to go to the single guy and ask him for advice on how to better my relationship. Why would I do that?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous, right? And it starts to go deeper, Pedro, because it goes like, well, my family always gives me advice, but I love my mom and dad. But does your mom and dad have, what you want in your life? No. So, and that's where it really starts to get deep, because then it goes like, and this is, this is what I had to learn out of it. This is why I moved out, because the dreams and goals that I wanted, my parents didn't have. And I love them and they love me, but they can't teach me something that they don't have. And if you really want to become someone that, to align with your dreams and goals, you have to go find that. And that's what I did for the last 7 years. So when, I'll get the comment of like, Daniel, I've heard you don't really stutter. Was it that bad? It was bad. But guess what? I put myself through the hardest stuff possible. I surrounded myself with performers. I moved out of my house. I did whatever I had to. I was like, I don't know if you know my numbers, but I've knocked on, like, Pedro, I've knocked on 100,000 doors, residential doors. I've been inside 40,000 homes with hostile people, with anything you could imagine behind a door I've seen to do 3,000 sales door to door. I've done the hardest things possible. So when someone asks me of like, how do you overcome it? I've been through 7 years of the hardest things anyone could ever go through with a stutter. But I had to get away from people who I had to get around people who were on the same journey as me.
Right.
Oh, no. That's what I want to say.
You have what, many call a growth mindset. You want to be around the people who are going to lift you up and guide you to where you need to be or want to be.
100%. And I'm stubborn about that. So when I find a mentor, I lock on And I get very stubborn on getting other people to give me advice.
See, and you bring up, I mean, just many great points, but the main one is that you actually paid for it. And so money is coming out of your pocket, because let's say you were in a free course weekly. There may be some weeks where you're like, no, I just don't feel like it,
Yes.
and then other weeks, well, there's a good TV show on, but once you pay for it, you are now accountable, because I am physically taking money out of my bank account and giving it to you because I want to improve upon, da 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 da.
And I really want to throw this one thing in, right? When people come to me and say, how do I truly speak like you, right? And that wasn't meant to sound arrogant, but how do I, people are like, you're pretty fluent, or for the most part, you're able to articulate your words. Like, what do I do? You want to, if you want the answer, I'll tell you exactly what I did. For the last 7 years of my life, I lived off commission only jobs. And the only way for me to actually make money is to get a customer. And if I didn't put food on the table.
Exactly.
And to tie into what you're saying is, when you start off, you might not have money, or, you can find the money if you want something bad enough. But what I did was I put in, I worked for people for free, pretty much. No one paid me a salary. If I didn't, again, make the company money, I didn't get paid. So there's 3 things that you have to pay with: time, energy, and money. Like a video game character. If you want to level up your character, there's 3 things you got to invest: time, energy, and money, and you need all 3. So, but 100%. You can't get something for nothing, and if you think like that, you are in a fairy tale.
Okay, so you were talking about going through the roughest 7 years, the hardest period of your life. Did you ever, this may be hard to measure, but had you ever experienced discrimination because of your stutter?
It's it's such a great question. Probably, right? Probably, if there's and it's not even discrimination. It's I knew at the time I couldn't get myself a legit job because of my stutter. I got fired from a grocery store.
Did you?
I got fired from 6 to 7 different places because I was slow and I couldn't communicate my words. So I literally felt the only jobs I can get were commission jobs, because they took everyone as long as you're willing to show up.
Right.
So because I knew that, I literally got fired from, in Canada, we have a place called No Frills, Joey's, a kitchen store called Bennick's, Moxie's. I got fired from so many places. I'm laughing about it right now.
But we can, because, during my last years in high school, the school counselor gave us all these tests. And so I was perfect for data entry. And so I thought, okay. And so there's no human interaction. And so, I got jobs in data entry. But, what they don't tell you is if the admin person in front has to go on break or on lunch, they can pull you to go handle the telephones. And so I knew if that was me, because I do heavy breathing because I have a hard time with my H's. If that was me on the telephone, they would have canned me in like a heartbeat. And so whenever they would call out over the PAs, they need a person from the back to go handle the telephones, I would run to the restroom. I spent years in that bathroom, in that stall, waiting for like 15 minutes if they were on a break or 30 minutes if they were on lunch. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
rough.
I really want to add to that because I know where this line of thinking can go. And one of the things that I had to learn was just to take full responsibility of everything that kind of happens in my life. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow. It's like the example of the alcoholic dad and the two kids, right? And one kid became an abused, he became, identical to his dad because his dad's an alcoholic and he, whatever, right? Like he followed the same footsteps, and the other son or the other kid was completely opposite. And they both came from the same dad. And, when I forget the exact study or where it came from, but they both asked the kids, why did you end up the way that you did? And they both said, well, look at my dad,
Wow.
What did you expect from me? Right.
Right. Exactly.
Dad, what did you? So one kid said, well, this is my path. And just like my dad, I'm going to end up the same way. Whereas the other kid said, well, whoever my dad is, I'm being the complete opposite. So, and I know, the problem with, today's day and age is it's very easy to be like, it's everyone else's fault but myself. And if you say it, you're not empathetic and you don't really care. I understand that idea, but just if I can speak from my personal experience, that line of thinking wouldn't have made me the man I am today. Like if I really, really, really believed it, whereas like I'm in a sales rep position with someone else, and this is why I love commission jobs. Why I absolutely love it, right? Because 100% they will discriminate you at the door, whether whatever culture you are,
Right.
Whatever speech you have, whether you have a unibrow, whether you have you're bald, they're going to discriminate you however you look. And the fact is, you can't use that. Like if I go knock on someone's door and be like, you're judging me because I don't have any hair, right? You can't say that,
Right.
Because they would just shut the door in your face. Whereas that, most people, they just quit because they can't handle it. But I knew that was my development plan to overcome my stutter. I knew if I mastered the door, I would master my stutter. If I knew I mastered the stage, I would master my stutter. That's why my program is called Master Your Stutter, because it's pretty much my life in a box. And I knew that. So I said, everyone else is going to quit because they're going to find all these reasons of why they can't do it. People don't like me. They don't take me serious. People are too angry. They're too bitter. No one likes the product. And I said, no. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, I need to get better. How? I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
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 And then I got better. And I said, you know what? The more people I talk to, the better I'm going to get. And if I got to get 100 no's today, I'm going to get 100 no's, but I'm still going to show up tomorrow. Whereas with other people, I got 15 no's in a row. No one wants it. I said, you got 15? I'm going to go for 150 today. And hopefully I might land on a yes. And if not, maybe tomorrow. So that line of thinking served me because instead of saying people are discriminating me, it went from, okay, well, maybe I need to get better. And then I found the right mentors. Maybe I need to dress better. Maybe I need to get a haircut. Maybe I need to brush my teeth more. Maybe I need to whiten my teeth. Maybe I need to perfect my closing skills. Maybe I need to perfect my objection handling. Maybe I need to perfect my attitude. Maybe it's more than just discriminating. Like in my eyes, Pedro, most people are really good individuals. Most people are good people with good intentions, but they've been burnt. So you look at this like they're discriminating me. Well, you can go down that line of thinking, or you can say, well, is there room for me to get better? And am I willing to wait? And that's what I did to become who I am today. So, I think there's discrimination in every aspect in life. I think there's discrimination if you went to a different school than some other kids. So if your employer went to one school, they want to employ other people that went to that school than if you went to a different school. So there's always discrimination. But if you focus on that, I think that's where you live a life of, it's like it's everyone's fault but mine. And
Right.
it's hard to really grow when you're in that place.
Right. there was a guest that I had on this podcast, and he was talking about where we self-discriminate. And so I had never thought about it that way, but he was right. We do discriminate. All through school, people were telling me that I was stupid, that I was slow, that I had a form of mental retardation, and that after high school I should just apply for disability and get a check each month. But I knew that I wanted more. I wanted better because I know where I've been, and so I don't want to go back there. That's why I joined the military. That's why I went to school. I obtained my master's, and so it's important to have that growth mindset. This is what I want, and here's how I'm going to get it. I'm going to have the right people around me, and I'm going to learn, because I'm 50 right now. I'm still learning, and that's the beauty, of it all, because we never stop learning.
Yes, and I wish I could just have time to really get into the psychology of when I actually help individuals overcome any speech hurdles, because I think there's so much to it. There's, like, for example, anyone that were to work with me, one of the first things I do is a lot of it is rewiring their thinking. Like it's a lot of it has to, like, this is why speech techniques, work for so long, right? Because it's like a Band-Aid solution, because you got to handle the root of it. And the root of it is the neural pathways and the patterns and the thinking that an individual has. And what you really got to do before you start giving them all the speech techniques and all the different breathing techniques, it's rewiring that aspect of, first off, do you believe that you can overcome it? No. Okay, so what are we talking about now? Like, we got to handle that first, right?
Right.
Right? The next thing is, are you aware of the words you stutter on? Great. How are you confronting those words right now? What are you doing right now to say, okay, I stutter on the S's? Great. So what are you doing today to actually, okay, the next thing, like I have all these different mindsets, right? Like a mindset is, a mindset that I always talk about is, you become who you think about most of the time, right? So you become who you think about. So let's actually take an audit of the thoughts that go through your head on a day-to-day basis, right? Let's take an audit of, like beliefs you have. Let's look at when you get very nervous in meetings, and I want you, when you're done that meeting, I want you to write out all the thoughts you have that are running through your head at that time. Right? It's when you take responsibility of your life and you say, I can get better, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get better. And I'm going to do whatever it takes once I find that mentor, right? Once I'm teachable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Once I'm teachable, then great. So then let's start to actually dissect it. Let's start to find out the real problem. And like to me, Pedro, the way I live my life is everything, like my life is a game. And I think this is one of the best analogies that you could really look at. You should look at your life like a game, right? So, and you want challenges. I don't know if I've ever told you this analogy. I love this analogy. So, like, I believe I'm a spiritual being, right?
Right.
And I believe, like, if you don't have a spiritual sense to you, or you're connected to something greater and you just think you're a bag of meat, I think life can be very sad. But I actually believe that. So this is my line of thinking. You want me to share it with you, Pedro?
Yes, sir.
So I tell you how I think. Okay. And this is where, again, I might lose some more people. Which is, so I actually believe I've come down to this in this world, and I've actually committed to certain lessons that I must go through. Okay. So
okay.
let me explain more. So
Okay.
There's a lesson of patience. There's a lesson of self-confidence. There's a lesson of loving yourself. There's a lesson of being in integrity, being ethical. And there's all these lessons. And part of life is to pass those lessons. And you're going to be challenged. And don't get angry because you have those challenges. You asked for it, right? So I actually believed I've signed an agreement. Okay, I don't want to get into all the details, but
Interesting.
I've come on this planet, God. I've agreed for all these challenges because they're going to make me a better person. So when you think of like a new soul is someone who doesn't have any problems. They just kind of go through life. They get everything they want. There's no real challenges. You know, they're born in a great family. They got all the money. They got, you know, all the freedom that they want. But I've learned that gets boring over time. So I'll give you an example. Imagine your life was like a soccer game. And every game, you're in this crowd and there's people in the stadium and it's crazy and this is your life. And it's like you and like these amazing players and you're playing against a bunch of 5-year-olds. And you beat them 62-0. You're like, woo, we beat them. Let's go, everyone. Yeah. Okay. And then
Exactly.
And then you do it again. And then you beat them 78-0. Woo, we did it. Yeah. Oh my God, this is so great. And then you do it again. 92-0. 100-0. 99-1 because you let them have a goal. And then you do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. What do you think would happen to you over time? Don't you think that would get a little bit boring?
Yes.
It would be a little bit repetitive.
Right.
It wouldn't taste good. It wouldn't feel good.
Right.
You'd be like, okay, give me some challenge. Give me something, please. I'm begging. Come on. Give me an actual team where I'm actually working for it. I need to get better. And that's what life's about. So I really believe that I have these challenges that I go through. And when you talk to someone who's an old soul, to me, in my words, in my view, an old soul is someone who's been through a lot of challenges, through many lives, whatever. Let's not get super deep right now. But that's what I believe. And, you know, in my life, I need to pass these lessons because when I pass them, that's when I'll be happier. And so at the beginning, when I first came here, I had easy challenges. And then I realized life is boring. I want some, like, look at any great movie. What's a great movie? There's the good and then the bad, and then you overcame the bad. That's what makes a great character, the transformation. So I think a lot of people forget this idea that life is like a game. So don't find all these reasons of, I can't do this, I can't do that. You asked for it. And even if you don't believe that, imagine that. Imagine you asked for that. What happens now? You're gonna go blame all these things of why I can't figure it out. So when I see someone who isn't growing, I see someone who is throwing in the towel. And that's where I feel like you start to get more miserable, because if, just like plants, if they're not growing, what are they doing? They're dying. And just like me and you, if you're not growing and getting better, you're truthfully dying. There's a lot of people that have come up to me and said, for some reason, my stutter got worse during COVID. Well, are you growing during COVID? Are you getting better during COVID? No. And there's no such thing as plateauing. That's not how the world works. There's no plateauing plants. They're either getting better or they're getting worse. So anyway, so my whole line of thinking is this idea right here, which is I'm playing a game and I signed up for these lessons and I love them. And my confidence, Pedro, my confidence comes from beating these challenges. And that's why I'm so happy.
Right. There's a great book by John Maxwell, the Laws of Leadership. And so in listening to you, I've applied many of those principles because, for example, the telephone has always been my nemesis. I would have people make phone calls for me. That way I didn't have to put myself through the trauma of, because one time, I told myself I need to do it. I need to do it. And so when I made the phone call to ask a question, the other person yelled, "Learn how to talk and call back." And then he hung up on me. And so, at that point, I told myself, I need to handle this. I do. And so what I did was I went on eBay and I bought a office telephone. So every day for half a year, Daniel, I was dedicated. Every day I practice making phone calls. I would draw upon my acting background and whatnot, go bring, and then, I would just have a conversation. And then I would practice receiving phone calls, bring, and then, I would just have a conversation. So during the course of half a year, just like you said, it became boring. It became boring. And when it came time to apply that in a real world application, when that phone rang, I picked it up, answered it. "Hi, good morning. How may I help you? My name is Pedro." And so I rewired basically what you were talking about, how I handled the telephone, because I knew that in life I need to address this, because Pedro is going to be successful in life. And this is an obstacle that I need to overcome. And I mean, this takes work, Daniel. This is hard work. People don't understand what we go through on an hourly basis, on a minute by minute basis. And so during that half year, I rewired how I thought about the telephone. And then during this COVID pandemic, it has pushed us completely out of our comfort zones. Previously, I was okay face to face with another human being, but now that we are working remotely, we have Zoom, we have Skype, we have Microsoft Teams. It has completely pushed us out of our comfort zone, and we have to do this. It's called survival. It's called keeping your job. And so you had made a fantastic point, because I wrote it down. What are you doing in this pandemic? What are you doing in COVID? And so what I did was I called up my buddies and said, let's practice. Let's practice on Zoom. Let's practice on Skype, and then Microsoft Teams. And so we did that, for weeks, because what I believe that practice doesn't make perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so having done this, I put in the hard work, and now, I am okay. There are times when I will have a block, and then you hear over the screen, did his cable go out, or Wi-Fi signal, did it go out? I said, no, I'm just having a block. Let me stop and breathe and carry on. But you have to put the onus on you. What are you doing during this time that we have never been in the history? What are you doing to improve on what you need to do? So, you bring up a fantastic point. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's when you have this, when you're looking at life as a game, and I need to get better, you're a very creative individual. So you'll start finding ways to make yourself better. So 100%.
Exactly. Now, do you think that it's important for people who stutter to have a thick skin?
I think this is just life in general. I think this is just life in general. I think the question is, that's a must, right?
Right. Exactly.
The second thing is, how thick is my skin? Well, go put yourself through really hard stuff.
Exactly.
And then you'll find out how thick your skin really is.
Okay, now that is the truth. So you just dropped the mic. So thank you for that. Okay, now you are of a certain age. You are above the legal drinking age of 21. If you do partake in alcohol, did you find that it made your stutter worse or better?
Yeah, obviously made it better. It obviously made it better, right? Yeah. Because there's no worry about I don't know the exact science, but you turn off the logical part of your brain, or the just truly just like, it's called liquid courage for a reason, right? So just like whether you're going up to a girl, it's the same idea. So, but I would not recommend it. I would recommend, because that is a short fix. It's just like,
right, exactly.
It's a Band-Aid solution, right?
Right, exactly. Now, do you have secondary behaviors that you do to help you get over a block or a repetition?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, like, personally for me, what happens in your speech is a reflection of what happens outside of your speech, like outside of you speaking, right? So, like, I have a morning ritual that I live by. You know, there's working out, there's a certain diet that I live by. There's obviously meditation, there's journaling, there's writing down my goals, there's tracking all my stats. If you want to look at like speech, I mean, there's, you know, like when I first began in sales, it's holding a mirror to my face. You know, personally for me, I saw the biggest jump when I started to master public speaking, because it's taking all my theory and putting it into action. So, you know, like that's my biggest thing. If you want to master your stutter or master your speech, truly master this idea of public speaking, and not just speaking for a minute, but knowing how to give a 30-minute presentation. That's probably the quickest way, in my view, to truly master your ability to speak, and not just doing it once every quarter or every couple months, but try and do it as much as possible.
So I am a little curious. Do you go through phases with your speech? Like, you know, yeah. Good days, bad days.
Yeah, I used to, not anymore. I'll just be completely honest. I used to. I've done like a lot of work on myself. Right. I really think door to door. So two things. I really think like becoming a leader, it had to force me to be consistent, or I would lose my job. And the second thing is, like, Pedro, like between me and you, I've spent, I would say, near $100,000 into my personal development.
Wow.
So, and that was like therapy of me confronting my past.
Yeah.
So it's made me a lot more stable. But it really comes out when I'm really upset or when I'm really angry. And that only happens 5% of the time.
How do you feel about people finishing your sentences?
Like, because I'm so seasoned, for example, and just having, like, I've just had so many conversations with so many people, it doesn't bother me anymore. When other people do it, like, I correct other people. Like, I have people on my team that work with me, help me with my videos, or help me with my my social media, or my content, or my media buying. When I see someone who that I work with do that to other people on my team, I correct them. Like, no, you don't do that. You're stunting their growth. That's disrespectful. But for me personally, like, it's, people have good intentions. I laugh at it, right? All right. It's like when you get good at communication, you treat it. It's like fun. You know how to be witty. You know how to be quick. You know how to, like, throw a jab back. It's like, like
Right.
it's like a girl, right? It's like the most boring conversations is when you don't really have like that flow. But when a girl likes you, when she makes a little comment and she throws it at you, it's how you respond to it that makes you attractive. So if you're like,
Right.
don't do that, that's not nice, right? That's obviously that would ruin the conversation. But if you know how to laugh at it, and that's, if that makes sense, Pedro.
Oh, yes, sir. Now, how do you handle negative self-talk?
Negative self-talk. How do I handle negative self-talk?
Do you
Yeah.
do you
so
have it?
Because I've done so much work on me, like I literally would be lying if I said I have a lot of negative self-talk. Because again, this was a challenge I grew up with, which was self-confidence. I rewire that phrase. So back in the day, I used to literally say, I don't want to swear, I'm the S. I'm the S. And when I mean S, do you know what I mean by that? S-H-I-T.
Yes, sir.
So I would tell myself that over and over and over again. And I've done that over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I've trained myself that when a negative thought comes to my head, I block it. And I block it and I block it and I block it. So it's like, no one likes hearing you talk. And then I'm aware of it. I catch it and I go, people love hearing me talk. People love hearing me talk. And at the beginning, I didn't believe it. But I said that over and over and over again until the neural pathways, a new highway formed over my brain. And now those thoughts, there's no attention to those thoughts anymore. But for a lot of people who live in that for so long, it's very hard to break that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Now, prior, in your history, had you ever been asked if you had forgotten your name, if you were asked a question and then you had a long block? Had that ever happened to you?
Always. All the time. All the time.
And how did you handle it?
I mean, the old me would have just like, I would just stop talking. It just, like I would just, I wouldn't. And then like how I handled it, like as the years kind of progressed, I would repeat my name over and over. That's why I think door to door is one of the best things you could do, or a sales job is one of the best things you could do, because you have to do it. Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm calling from blah, 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 blah. I work with blah, 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 blah. Hi, my name is Daniel. My name is Daniel. My name is Daniel. So the older me didn't want to confront it, but in sales, for me to only make a paycheck, I had to confront it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir, it does. And do you consider stuttering a disability?
Yeah, personally, for me personally, no. I understand the idea. I just, you label anyone, right? To me, it's like when you start categorizing people, that's when they start believing it, right? You call someone insane for a good enough time, they'll start believing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like, personally for me, if I was labeled disabled and I believed it and I lived in that energy, maybe I wouldn't have become the person I am today. So I had to believe like, I'm Daniel. Like that's who I am. I'm Daniel.
Right.
I'm not, I have this, I have that. I'm Daniel. I'm Daniel Francis. That is who I am. The world can label me whatever they want. I believe I'm Daniel.
How cool. And so here is a hot topic. Okay, so let's talk about dating. Dating is, difficult for many, but for people who stutter, it's a little bit more difficult. How did you handle dating?
Yeah, at the beginning, I didn't really date a lot. So I literally, I was just focused on me. So I had the belief that if I work enough on me, the right person will come into my life. But I have to be ready for her. I have to do more work on me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm at a certain place in my life, when I've worked on myself, I've built up my confidence, I've done all those things. When the time is right, that person will fall into my world and I'll fall into her world, or him, or whatever you want to, whatever you're into, or whether you're a girl, whether you're a guy, whatever the case is, you will find your partner at the right time as long as you work on you. That is my 2 cents. The second thing is, yeah, you need to go out and get out of your comfort zone. And I think the last thing I want to say is be okay with rejection. If you're not okay with rejection, you're in trouble. Like, you're not going to find someone on the first conversation. You're not going to find someone on the first time you go out. You got to do a lot of it, take a lot of action. And sooner or later, you'll find your personality, you'll find the person, and you'll live happily ever after. But if you don't actually go out there and work on you, that will never be a reality.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Work on you. Work on you. So what do you think about all this new technology? You have Google Home, you have Alexa, and then you have Siri. Do you think that all this new technology is helpful or hurtful for people who stutter?
I like technology. I think it makes you a better person. Using it in the right way. Like, we live in a world right now where we're in 2 different countries and we're having a full-on conversation. So, but you're talking about more of like the voice, like, hey Siri, hey Google, or what are you talking about specifically? That?
Yes, because many people who who have a stutter from around the world, they tell me that they have great difficulty with this new technology because it doesn't give you the time that that we need to, breathe, and then respond, because they have an algorithm where you have like 1 or 2 seconds and then they respond. Then maybe, that's when, it becomes, a little aggravating, a little irritating, and then they just give up. However, the other half tell me that they use it to practice because it isn't a human being. It is a robot. It has no emotions, and therefore they can practice on that device.
Yeah. Again, when you have the mindset that everything is meant to make you better, like, think about it. If you look at everything like this is not like, if you look at every thing that comes into your life, whether it's a person, whether it's a job, whether it's an interview, whether it's a piece of technology, when you look at everything as this is meant to better me, then you should look at that piece of technology, or you should look at, hey Google, hey Siri, or whatever, how can I get better? Like, I literally live a life, Pedro, I don't lose. Either I learn or I win. It works out or I learn. So when you have that mindset, it's almost like this, right? I don't know if you ever heard of this analogy. By the way, I speak in analogies for the most part. Have you ever heard of the idea of the man who's on the island, and he's like asking, and the island is starting to sink, and he's asking God to help him and save him? Have you heard of that before?
No, sir.
That story. So anyway, so there's this man who's on the island, and the island is sinking, and the whole community or the whole town, a boat comes to town, and it saves majority of the people and takes them from the sinking island. And the man goes, no, it's okay. God's gonna save me. Don't worry about it. God's gonna save me. And and then so they're like, okay, you crazy. And then it goes, and then a helicopter comes, and then the helicopter pilot goes, what are you doing? The island's about to sink. You're gonna die. He's like, no, don't worry. God's gonna save me. God's got me. He's like, you're crazy. And he goes away. And then finally he's like literally like about to drown. And then, another boat comes. He's like, what are you doing? Get in the boat. Are you crazy? He's like, no, don't worry. God's going to save me. God has me. Okay. And then obviously he ends up dying, right?
Oh,
right. he ends up dying.
Oh,
and then
no.
he shows up to the Golden Gates. And then he's like, and then he's pissed off. He's like, God, what the hell's happening? Like, come on. Like, I've been praying to you. I said for you to come and save me, and I died. He's like, He's like, you idiot. I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What's wrong with you? Right?
I love that.
Right? He's like, what's wrong with you, you idiot? I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. Are you crazy? Right?
Oh my gosh.
And I say that because, God is always sending us opportunities. So maybe that piece of technology is an opportunity for us to get better. Maybe he put that in our realm for us to practice. But we're finding faults in things.
Right.
Because the whole idea behind that story is because you're thinking it's supposed to go this exact way. God's going to come with his light beam and lift me up and bring me somewhere else. And it's not how it works. And when you start having this thinking as everything that comes into my life is a way for me to get better. And whether it's you get rejected from a job interview, maybe that was meant to happen because it was meant to get you to get angry and get upset and do it. Like with you, Pedro, when they said that you should go on disability. Maybe that was God's way of, like pushing you to be like, you deserve a lot more, but I'm going to put this in your face so you get pissed off or angry. So you say, no, I'm not going down that route. And when you start thinking like that, you don't look at this is bad for me. This is everything is good for me. Everything is meant for me. It's up to me to take advantage of it.
Right. See, and I 100% believe that God puts people in your path because I didn't complete the story of when I had the 38 in my hand. I was walking at midnight down the road, going to go under the overpass, and then I was going to end my life, and there was a homeless man, and where I lived, we didn't have homeless people in my area, and under this bridge, there was a homeless man. He saw me with the gun in my hand, and he asked me why I was going to do that. And so, I told him, after 12 years of just being isolated, the darkness, I had enough of it. And so I told him, this is my answer. And that's when he told me no. We all have a purpose on this earth. You're here for a reason. You are here because God put you here for a reason. Go find your purpose because you have one on this earth. And I kid you not, Daniel, I turned around. I went back home. I put the gun back quietly, although, I got in trouble for that. But I believe that God puts people in your path for a reason. And I wouldn't be here. I would not be here if that had not happened. So I truly believe in that. Now, here is a question that I ask my guests recently. So, do you think it's okay to stutter, or is it important to keep chasing the fluency gods?
The fluency gods. Yeah, like my 2 cents, I've talked about this many times, is it's not, people don't care that you stutter, but it's more or less your attitude after you stutter. So how are you responding to the situation when you stutter and you can't say a word? Is your energy dropping? Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point because in a conversation, what we perceive the other person thinking of us, that's not what they're thinking about us. What do you think is the role of the other person in a conversation? Do you think they should, have eye contact? I mean, what are your thoughts on the role of the other person having a conversation with the person who stutters?
Yeah, I mean, this all goes back to the idea of like who should be your friend in your life and who should you keep as a friend. So if you have people in your life who snicker, who don't take you seriously, who laugh at you, who put you down, then that's a red flag for you to not keep them in your life.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
if you have someone who listens, is patient, loves you for you, that's a great person to keep in your life. But a lot of people need to learn you should not be keeping every person you keep in your life or every person you meet in your life. There are some people that you need to get rid of.
Right.
So if someone laughs, someone makes fun of you, talks bad about you, you get rid of that person. So if you are stuttering in front of someone and they laugh or they don't take you seriously, you get rid of them. So
Exactly.
you should be stuttering your face off and just looking them in their eyes and saying, let's see, you should do this for you.
Exactly.
Is this a person I should keep in my life? And if it's a no,
Adios.
Adios, amigos.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree 1,000,000%. Now, what has your stutter taught you?
Work ethic. It taught me, like my stutter, when I look at other people that don't have the same work ethic as me, I go, I'm so lucky I stutter. I am so lucky I went through what I went through growing up.
Exactly.
It's like the example of the cool high school kid who had everything, who had all the girls, he had all the
Right.
parties, Mr. Cool Guy, on the captain of the football team, and then years later, life really kicks in and he doesn't know how to handle it. Whereas
Exactly.
like the nerd who got bullied is like, the one who's successful, and it's that idea. And for me, because I grew up with a lot of pain, this was God's way of making me who I am today. All that pain made me who I am today. And no one can stop me. Like no one can get in my way. And
Exactly.
I thank that all to my stutter.
Yep. And so what advice would you give to another person who stutters?
Yeah, you need to follow who do you listen to a T.
Awesome.
Like you need to go look at who am I listening to for advice. And then the other thing is like, if this is something you really want to handle, then put your money where your mouth is. Like I know you may laugh at this, but go in debt. Like we're okay
I've been there. Yeah.
We're okay with going in debt, spending 10, 20 grand a year. People getting their masters going into 100 grand in debt. But oh my God, a communication coach, are you $3,000 for? Oh my God. It's like, where's the logic in that? Where is the logic in that? And it's like, you need to be developing yourself, and you need to understand you can't do it by yourself. So you need accountability, and you need to put your money where your mouth is, just like what people do with education. The problem is our society says, we need to do this to become successful. And if you don't have this, Pedro, do you have a lot of friends who spend a lot of money on student debt? Do you have a lot of friends who who just piled up?
Oh God, yes. Vet bills. They went to veterinary school and they're like $200K, $300K in the hole.
Yeah, like God forbid you spend $5,000 on a communication coach.
Right.
God forbid. And this is where the logic doesn't take place. Like for everyone listening, I work with 60-year-olds, and it's like I go back to the 14-year-old or the 20-year-old in my program. They wish that they can go back in time. And what I'm saying is, whether you're 60, whether you're 20, whether you're 31 and you're trying to start a family, if you are listening to this podcast, especially for this long, there's something within you and you want to overcome it. And you can either keep listening and you can either keep doing all the free stuff, or you can start making decisions to start making moves. And if you really want to change who you are, it's not going to come from doing it by yourself. You cannot do it by yourself.
Right. Because when I turned 40 years old, that's when I told myself enough is enough. I'm tired of being exhausted every single day. I'm tired of not being able to do what I want to do. And that's when I spent 2 years, Daniel. I spent over 20 grand in 2 years. I did personal development. I went to workshops. I went to trainings. I read all these books, I met these amazing mentors. And that is how I created my YouTube and later on my podcast. They gave me the tools. They said, Pedro, you can do anything in this world. I am here to help you, guide you, and support you. I won't be that person who will always tell you yes. Oh, no. I mean, there were days where, they would just kick my butt, and tell me, no, that is not helping you to grow. And so I thank all those mentors in those 2 years, because that got me to where I am right now. So I am eternally grateful. Plus, even though I'm 50 years old, I'm still learning. I'm still reading on how to be a better Pedro. So put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so if you had the opportunity, Daniel, okay, let's say you were in Wembley Stadium, hundreds of thousands of people in the audience. And so let's say you had an opportunity to give the world insight about stuttering. What message would you convey?
If you want to overcome your stutter, if you want to become the best version of you, you need to you need to do the hard stuff in your life. You need to confront the boogeyman in the closet. And if you don't confront the boogeyman in the closet, you are in trouble. And one of the first things you could do is you can understand the concept of who you listen to. And the second concept is you are who you spend your time with. So if all 5 of your friends are smoking weed and playing video games, you're probably number 6. Right?
Exactly.
So if you want to overcome what you want to be, surround yourself with these type of people, get very disciplined, and your happiness relies on your ability to confront the boogeyman in the closet.
And that is awesome. That is an awesome message. And so now tell me about what you do now, Daniel. Tell me, about your awesome business. Tell me what Daniel Francis is doing right now.
Well, first off, I know we haven't talked about that. I would have loved to say this at the beginning of the podcast, but me and Pedro actually did an interview for a summit I'm putting together. It's called the 30-Day Speaker, and it's revolved around this idea of me truly understanding, as the host, understanding the science of what makes a great communicator. And I broke it up into 3 different days. One day on socializing and the art of socializing. The second day on stuttering. And I interview people like Pedro, who's amazing with an amazing story. You did awesome on that interview, by the way, Pedro.
Thank you, sir.
So if you haven't, for everyone listening, February 1st is the first official day, and you get your free ticket at 30dayspeaker.com. And then I do a third day on public speaking. So that is kind of what I'm, it's like, I want to give as much free content as I can possible. My full intention, what Daniel is his goal on this planet is to teach people the science and give people the tools to tap in to their best potential when relating to communication. Because we all know that if you can't communicate, you're not happy. If you can't communicate, you're going to struggle with life. And this is not a debate, but anything you want in life, it's communication. If you can't communicate, you're in big trouble. So that is what I'm all about. What I do is I help people who stutter overcome it and master it by learning the basics of personal development, truly learning how to public speak with confidence. So that's what I do. And I run a program where we have people all around the world, and I do weekly calls, and there's a 6-step process that I bring someone through. So first step is master your mind. Second step is mastering your fear and confronting fear. Next one is mastering your ability to influence and persuade and to sell and to overcome blocks. The next phase is learning how to actually put together a presentation. The fifth step is knowing how to actually present and public speak and really master the basics of public speaking. And, I have one individual, Prakash, who's 55, and he's been in my program for about 3 months now. And like, we're actually about to do an interview very soon with me and him, and his growth is unbelievable. Like, growth is unbelievable. This whole concept, I know, Pedro, you're 50, but like the whole idea of like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that's 100% wrong.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
And
oh yeah.
So, and then my last step of my program is mastering the ability to socialize. So my program is called Master Your Stutter. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to masteryourstutter.com, and there's a free training that I give away to learn more of like exactly what I do. But in essence, I help people unlock their communication abilities. How? Because I've done it myself, and I can only teach something that I've done myself. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
How awesome. Okay, now, this podcast is in 45 countries around the world. I'm so blessed to have this platform, and I have amazing listeners. What would be the best way to have my listeners get a hold of you if they wanted additional information?
Yeah, I mean, so if you go to masteryourstutter.com, and if you watch my training, you're able to book a call with my office right after. But you can follow me on Instagram at official Daniel Francis, Facebook Daniel Francis. If you stutter and you're looking for a community, I run a Facebook community of, I believe it's about 1,400 people. It's called Overcoming Stuttering Community on Facebook. But yeah, I run a podcast too called Master Your Stutter Podcast. But if you want, also, there's a free guide. There's so much I can give away, but there's a free guide that I give away. I call it the 5 steps to overcome stuttering and speak with confidence. If you go to overcomestuttering.org, you can download my free PDF, and you just give in your name and email, and you can learn more of exactly what I do. But if you want to DM me personally, official Daniel Francis on Instagram.
That is awesome. I mean, I wrote down just so many notes. When we're done, I'll take a picture of it and email it to you, because you were dropping gems and diamonds. Because what I believe is that learning is an everyday joy. I still learn every day. I read a ton of books on personal development. And so, I mean, for me, I can only speak for me. I mean, it has put me to where I am today. So I am extremely grateful. And so I would like to thank you, Daniel Francis. Thank you for sharing your story, because I believe there's healing in sharing. And so I just want to say thank you for spending your afternoon with me. Thank you for giving our listeners such amazing value. And I hope down the road we can do this again. Hashtag fellow podcaster. We can continue this amazing conversation. So I mean, you're hashtag awesome. I think you are amazing. And so I just want to say thank you.
I am humbled for you having me on. So I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship, and, good people with good intentions and good ethics. That relationship will live for a long time. And I think we both are genuine people that, we take what we do very seriously. And what that means is, if we're both on this journey and we're both ambitious, we're going to be friends for a long time. So I can definitely see that. And it's just a pleasure getting to know you more, Pedro.
Thank you, sir. You take care, be well, and stay safe.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.